So, hello and welcome to another Cyber Squad gaming video. Today we're going to be talking about the delay of Halo Infinity. Breaking news here, 343 Industries released a statement, which we'll throw up on the screen now so you guys can read it. But long story short, we are not seeing Halo till 2021. So we thought we'd talk about it and what the effects are of the delay, what we think caused the delay, and then also what we think the effect is on the Xbox Series X launch. So with me I have Thomas, who's going to help play counter to my argument. So first off, this is the first major delay of, let's call it, the 2021 fall release window. We've had Destiny latest releases have been pushed back for Destiny 2 because of working from home difficulties. And then we've also had The Last of Us, who released earlier in the year. They had a couple month delay. So is this to be expected? Are we expecting more games to get delayed like this?
I think it's definitely a possibility. We've slowly seen in the community COVID having a big issue with delaying games and or causing issues for many things. So if this is just a start, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'd really hope it isn't, seeing as both companies, I know we're talking about Xbox here, but both are aiming for a fall launch on a lot of their big titles.
Yeah, and I think also a lot of these games, people forget that games aren't 10 people anymore. They're 500 or 1,000 people working collaboratively on builds and engines and everything coming out. And I've got to think working remote, sending all that to a server, coming down, not having a, let's call it a communal build where people stand around and discuss and look at screens and make adjustments really quickly. It's got to be very difficult to be doing that kind of creative collaboration remote.
For sure. Actually, because of what I work in, that is something that can be really detrimental to it. It's one thing to sit around and actually talk about what you're doing and how it comes out, like you said, and it's another thing to share it, on screens or webcams and try to collaborate that way. I mean, I've seen many studios expressing how they've delayed it about certain things or kept trying to keep up with the community and share what's happening with them. But at the end of the day, there's nothing the same as being in the same room and really dealing with these things and being over webcams and trying it that way.
Yeah, and I think they've also stipulated here that they want to avoid crunch, right? And the game industry has a horrible record of crunch, of those 20-hour days at the end to get over the last build, crush out the last bugs, and really get the game polished. And with COVID, I can only imagine crunch is much, much worse. So I'm kind of glad they mentioned the safety of the people, the well-being, and the health of the people. Let's be honest, people that are awake, engaged, and want to work on a game, let's say it takes 3 or 4 month delay, a 6 month delay, hopefully that leads to a better Halo game.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of crunch, I mean, there's also a motivation factor there. I'm not going to slate any of the developers or anything. I'm sure their heart's in the right place. But it's one thing to be in crunch with your peers in the studio, working on it, seeing the results, getting into it, and enjoying that moment than it is to be at home, quarantined, doing the same thing. Whether you enjoy the game, when you like building it or not, that those are all going to be latent effects that affect your ability to develop.
Yeah, so let's look at it on the other side of things, because something that did happen when Halo had its Xbox showcase is everyone expected Halo to come out swinging, and they did, but to an extent, the reception wasn't great. There was a poor reception to the graphics. It was running on PC hardware. It was not the Xbox Series X version with ray tracing and all that. There was pop-in. They had the Craig memes going on about the brute that looks like he's from PS2 days or something. And they went around, they said, oh, this is built on a much older build. And then they came back with this huge press release at the time saying, like, these are the things we're working on, we're listening to the community, we want your feedback. Do you think that played into it as well?
Uh, yes. I think on initial reaction when Halo got announced, remember Infinite's been around, coming up for a while, so everyone knew it was coming, so they're expecting a huge reveal. So what was shown at first, people were just hyped about it, right? They got on board, they loved it, they loved what they saw, and then on retrospect, the fans started giving their feedback in. It went from being we like it to we love it to we like it, but can we do this, to we get it, can we also have this back? And the feedback a lot of times could be unreasonable. But I definitely think once the veil and the kind of initial eyes fell off, a lot of people started critically reviewing it, and I think it had a bit more to go, and I think the fans wanted a bit more to go. So I think it definitely is like a key point that may have influenced the actual development timeline.
Yeah, I think the initial response was, wow, open world Halo, and we're kind of getting something along those lines. Then it dived into Halo is supposed to be the top graphics, right? The best. It's supposed to be up there. And I think it didn't do a great job selling that, and maybe that's the Xbox One X. I mean, one of the discussion points that's come up quite recently has been, was this a very, very, very ambitious Xbox One game, right? And when we say that 1.4 teraflop processor in the Xbox One, we're saying, okay, let's go, let's do this. And if it come out and go, wow, that's some scope. But with all the next gen power and bells and whistles, we expect that scope, but to maintain the graphics. And did they suffer from that expectation?
Yeah, so this is something that I'd been thinking about as well. Whereas, like Microsoft's plan, right, is to have uh, no no exclusives towards Xbox Series X for the foreseeable future. At least it sets on the timeline of a lot of things will be on both consoles. So that wasn't known about when I think Infinite was first shown off in its teaser trailer, which people were super psyched about, and it looked great at the time. I still think it looks great. Maybe it was one of those looks better than the current product because of that situation. But I'm definitely on that same board of when Microsoft's marketing, and this isn't just towards Infinite now, but Microsoft's marketing has been very heavy towards we've got the power, the most powerful console, this, that, and the other. And not saying it won't be, when they have their exclusives and it will be, they'll have amazing looking games. They'll have amazing looking games anyway. But currently with the idea of the whole previous next gen, like streamlining the product between the two to ease people into it and saying you get the free upgrade and whatnot, I think that's going to have a slight effect on these things that people were not expecting even when they heard all the power going into it.
We'll have to have a different conversation on Xbox strategy. I mean, I think PCs have scaled for years. The difference is PCs don't typically scale from 10 teraflops to 1 teraflop, right? Or 12 to 1.4. They scale from my GPU's 2 years old and it's 6, and my new one is 10, right? And that's a big difference. I think I heard, that the Halo Infinite was getting a ray tracing patch. I'm like, ray tracing is next gen. Ray tracing has a massive effect on the ability to produce lighting in shadowed areas within games, right? So great. And then you have a super fast SSD that's faster and better than a PC SSD, and then you show a demo with pop-in and no ray tracing 4 months before launch. And I know it's a 4 or 5 month old build, but I just saw the writing on the walls. Like, there's a chance here that this either A, has a really rough launch, or B, has a setback and is going to get delayed. Now, I think delaying it was the right choice because I'm not sure Halo after Halo 5 is going to enjoy like a really rough launch with patches coming out for marketing reasons and things like that.
You have to, I agree with everything you said, and you have to remember that this isn't a sequel Halo. This is a next gen Halo. This is the Halo to launch the next platform that Microsoft wants to go forward with. Granted, now it's not going to be a launch title from from the delay what we've heard, but it still might be a console seller when it comes out. It's definitely going to have its own edition. It's definitely going to have its own marketing ploy, push for it. So it's not like they're getting rid of that. It is definitely its own thing, and it is coming. It's just I think they've definitely seen the community issues, and I think they themselves may have realized that tunnel vision is a thing, right? You get a bit too focused on everything you want to show, and they're super proud to show it. The fans were super happy to see it, and now we've got this period of damn it, the word of what I'm talking about here is losing me. But yeah, a grace period even of feedback.
Well, I think that brings on to our last real point to touch on, which is Xbox launch effect, right? Because the Xbox, to me, had a stronger lineup than the PlayStation, and that's because of the backwards compatibility. The rumors running around about the Xbox Series X playing third parties better. They had Halo. That was, Halo's a big title. They had Gears of War Tactics. I know it's come out on the PC. They were lined up for a decent fall, right? And I think the PlayStation kind of had Godfall, right? And Spider-Man, which was an upgrade version of the old Spider-Man. So I think this hurts them in the sense that now if you said, right, I got to buy an Xbox or a PlayStation, one of them I can kind of play all these other games on the PC, and one of them is I'm going to play on the PlayStation. That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is you're buying Microsoft because of Game Pass. You're buying Microsoft because you want a device that plays all your games, because guess what? Game Pass and buying Xbox games is now on the PC. Xbox is now just a way to play games if you want to be in the ecosystem. So maybe it doesn't hurt the launch of the Series X.
So I don't think it's going to hit that console sales or anything so hard. So like you mentioned, PlayStation is doing the more traditional lineup of having launch titles and games you buy on launch. Sure, they haven't announced if they're going to have like a PS Now thing again. I mean, PS Now is a thing, but some sort of streaming with the newer games. It's going to be the older games. Whereas Microsoft still has Game Pass. So even if Halo is delayed, Halo's still coming. And people aren't just excited for Halo on day one. They're excited for all the games that are announced in Game Pass. So at the end of the day, they still get a huge lineup for launch. They just might not have a console selling package of Halo like they intended. Maybe it'll be one of the other Game Pass titles now. And we'll see have to see how they play that and what they decide to choose.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I wonder if what they'll do around launch is give Halo multiplayer beta, right, in November or December to kind of give you that taste for a next year release. But I think we can leave it there. I think we've discussed this point. Thank you very much for joining me and tuning in for this Cyber Squad gaming video. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for future discussion and updates on upcoming games and topics.